I know what you're thinking. Zealand, you got a haircut. First of all, my name's Zealandism. Second of all, I didn't. But I did get new headphones. It was like a sponsor thing. Honestly, it was, don't worry, this isn't a sponsorship. It's just Zealandism lore. I'd had these for like 2 months. I don't know if you noticed. The old ones, a little beat up. A little bit. I'd been waiting for these. I had to get on because of my complicated audio setup. I have here the $100,000 studio that we work with in order to bring you these shit-posted videos. I had to get on a call with the people that made these to actually explain to me, to drill something in through my 5-foot thick skull, how to set these headphones up. So I realize this might be disorienting for you. In that case, I am very sorry. The headphones are white. My previous headphones were black. So I guess if you have an issue with these headphones, you're racist. Anyways, the football on display yesterday, absolutely sensational. I'm recording this at about 2:30 in the morning, and I was going to make a video about the Champions League results. There were some crazy games in there, but then I actually started to deep what happened yesterday. And if you didn't notice, if you didn't watch it, which, look, I can't blame you. I was streaming. There was also Champions League going on. The League Cup, the English League Cup, was where the best football was going to be found. Now, obviously, I'm going to make a video about the Champions League stuff at some point, but we gotta make this video now. Because Grimsby, those sly bastards that knocked out Manchester United in the previous round, the port town in Lincolnshire, don't worry, I didn't actually know that. I Googled it. I didn't know where Grimsby was. Quite a far way away. Kind of just expected it to be somewhere in this blast radius, but no, it's actually got a little flavor to it. They won. Grimsby Town, for the first time in 24 years, is headed to the last 16 of the League Cup. They have claimed Manchester United, and now they've gone on the road against Sheffield Wednesday. Even more difficult than Sheffield Tuesday. Thank you. Sheffield Wednesday is not very good. I mean, compared to Manchester United, they're not very good. But I did, as a kind of partially a manner of procrastination at this late hour, go back and watch the extended highlights. I didn't just do that for this match, for all 3 League Cup matches that happened on this day, because all 3 of them were awesome. The Grimsby match, almost definitely the most boring. For those that didn't partake in this, Grimsby was the better team, and their dominance almost entirely based on set pieces. Now, they might have only had 3 corners, but they had what felt like 400 free kicks. I don't know if they had 14 free kicks. There's no way to determine, like, offensive free kicks. It felt like Grimsby Town was either on a corner or, like, some sort of angled 40-yard free kick the entire game. They scored off a corner. They kept the pressure on Sheffield Wednesday. And I'm going to be completely honest. If you're assessing what team deserved to win this match, it was Grimsby Town, which is remarkable. Because Grimsby Town's not just a League 2 team, they're a shitty League 2 team. Not this year, obviously, but they have been. They were in the National League in 2021-2022. They spent a while in the National League from 2010 to 2016 after a brief spell where they never got above 14th in the league in League 2 and then went back down. Their first 2 years ago, they were 21st in the EFL. They were 2 spots away from getting sent down to the National League again. We are talking about a club that very recently was arguably the worst team in the entire League Cup. They finished 9th last year, and if you look up the League 2 table, I'm assuming they're even higher this year. I haven't even looked at it. I don't know. That's not the point. They are. They're 5th. They have a legit opportunity to try and get up to League 1. It would be the first time since, I believe, 2003, 2004, that they get up to the 3rd division of English football. That was in their, they got smacked around with a double relegation from the second division, the second tier to the 4th division, which was then rebranded as Football League 2. Never quite understood that. It takes a while as an American to get used to the fact that League 1 is the 3rd division. You can understand, but I get that it might be natural for you if you grew up in England, or probably, honestly, in Europe writ large, or even in South America, that you just naturally like, oh yeah, of course. There's a lot of places in Europe that have all that dumb name stuff going on. Anyways, Grimsby Town, not very good. Even watching the broadcast of this game, they're talking about all the players that they've signed from non-league. They've elevated their own Jamie Vardy's up to this team, and now all of a sudden they're in the last 16. Right? The last time they made the quarterfinal, by the way, I did some sleuthing. back in 1984-85 out of the third tier of England. So congrats to them, I guess. I believe it was the third tier. Might have been the second tier. I don't know. The name's kind of Football League divisions renamed after the Premier League season. Right, okay. They were actually in the second tier of England when they made the quarterfinal. That was the last time they did. They have before. Grimsby has, in fact, been in the top flight of England before. You know when they were in the top flight of England? I do. 1948. A lot of World War II vets in that team. So that's exciting. Maybe they slipped an American in there that didn't feel like going home after D-Day. I have no idea. This is not a team that's really ever been to these heights before. So incredibly exciting for them. Sheffield Wednesday is dog water. They are not very good. I'm pretty sure they rotated the team pretty heavily for this match as well. It was a depressing scene in the stadium. They have 1 point from their first 5 matches, and they might get relegated to Thursday. I don't know. Like that's where they're headed. This was a brutal match. Now the other 2 matches, brilliant. We had another upset bid for Millwall. Now, Crystal Palace was definitely the better team in this game. Probably should have put it away in the first 30 minutes because Millwall looked all over the shop, but then they got their shit together. And eventually, Crystal Palace just bungles a goal in with America, Chris Richards, in the 72nd minute. Some scrappy, stupid corner, right? But Crystal Palace had not a million. They had a few really pretty chances that didn't end up in the back of the net, and then Chris Richards just toe pokes one in, balls bouncing around on a corner. And you're thinking, Crystal Palace finally leaned on him, scored some shitty goal. But no. Millwall in the 91st minute when Crystal Palace fans were already going home assuming, wow, we got to see a win. Nice cheap tickets for a League Cup, Whew, that was a fun day at the park. And then all of a sudden Millwall scores. And the fun part, obviously, of the League Cup is this leads directly to a penalty shootout. Like in 4 minutes. Now, in those 4 minutes, Crystal Palace had God's gift to chances. They missed it anyways. I don't know. It was Jean-Philippe Mateta who, kind of assisted the Chris Richards goal in a weird way. He was definitely very threatening the whole match because, well, it's Mateta against Millwall. But it was a beautiful team move in the 93rd minute. Mateta skies it. To his credit, he steps up and scores the penalty and looks like he's taking a stroll through the park. I love the lack of pressure that some of these guys are feeling in these penalty shootouts. But yeah, Millwall's first penalty, not very good. In fact, quite bad. I don't know. The captain's Krama. He walked into the ball and just passed it somewhere in the general vicinity of the corner. And Benitez was able to make the save pretty comfortably. Second penalty was maybe a little better, but it was a pretty easy penalty shootout for Crystal Palace. They survive, right? A team that's won their first ever trophy is now headed to the last 16 of the League Cup. They definitely would have been disappointed to lose this one at home. And that brings us to the Premier League showdown, which was Brentford and Aston Villa, taking place in London. And this was also a rip-roaring good time because we had 3 matches. Only 3 in the League Cup. Grimsby from the 4th tier winning. Millwall taking a Premier League team to penalties. And this went to penalties too. Bellissimo. The League Cup delivered in a way that you could only dream of. Except for the fact that Harvey Elliott's opening goal in this match was probably... shambles is an understatement. I don't even know what was happening. It was like some sort of failed sideways pass across the back that gets deflected. Goalkeeper comes halfway out, realizes he can't get there, tries to backpedal. Elliott shoots it through his legs. It bounces off both his ankles and goes through anyways. Good news for that keeper is he'd be a hero later. Then 57th minute, Aaron Hickey scores a beautiful goal off a long throw. Like an Icelandic wet dream or something. The long throw gets headed back and he volleys it from 14 yards into the top corner like he's been doing it all his life. And that equalizes us up at 1-1. It was a pretty scrappy game going back and forth outside of that. And in the penalty shootout, my boy Valdemarsson, that goalkeeper that gave up the goal between his legs, ends up making a penalty on the opening shot from my boy John McGinn, which is a real shame because John McGinn's just one of those wonderful, unique footballers out there. So I'm always kind of rooting for him, high key, low key. So Brentford is now into the last 16 as well, and a Premier League team is out. So rejoice, Grimsby. You aren't going to draw at least one Premier League team, but I guess that was going to be the case either way, so that doesn't matter. I did score the winning penalty in this one, though, because it was Mikkel Damsgaard that scored. Was the main point of this video to inform you that Grimsby is on a murderous run to the championship of the League Cup? Yes. But also, good football can be found everywhere. Or something. I don't know. It's 3 a.m. Hope you're enjoying your lunch.